phone at all. Mr. Brock, go ahead quickly.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to remind all colleagues that during the last appearance of Tom Clark at this committee, he indicated that he'd be willing to be put under oath to reiterate his talking points. With that being said, I'd be seeking unanimous consent from all committee members that Mr. Clark, prior to his opening statement, be given the opportunity to either swear to tell the truth or affirm to tell the truth, Mr. Chair.
We're fine with that. Mr. Clark, I understand you have the text. Go ahead, Mr. Clerk.
Hello, Mr. Clark. Would you like to perform an oath or solemn affirmation, sir?
Affirmation, please.
Okay, so please repeat after me. I, Tom Clark, do solemnly, sincerely, and truly affirm.
I, Tom Clark, do solemnly and sincerely affirm
and declare the taking of any oath is according to my religious belief unlawful.
And declare the taking of any oath according to my religious belief unlawful.
And I do also solemnly, sincerely, and truly affirm.
And I do also solemnly, sincerely, and truly affirm.
And declare that the evidence I shall give on this examination.
And declare that the evidence I shall give on this examination.
Shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Thank you, Mr. Clark.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Barrett, the floor is yours for 6 minutes, please.
On November 5th, news broke about your involvement in the purchase of the $9 million condo on Billionaires Row. And then, having been found out, you sent a letter, and the letter said, I was not aware until media reports this week that the comments made in passing to a colleague had been reported by the Consulate General to the Global Affairs Canada property team. Let me give you an example of a comment made in passing, Mr. Clark. Hey, that meeting didn't go so well. Now, let me give you an example of someone who holds the most senior position at an organization telling their team that the facilities for them to live in and for them to work in were insufficient. And that's what you did, sir. Isn't that right?
Mr. Chair, as previous testimony has shown, the concerns about the official residence, let's call it the old official residence, have been around since 2014. I was
there, Mr. Clark. The difference, sir, is that you got the job and then the condo got bought. That's the difference. This isn't about what happened 8 years ago. What we need to know, sir, is why you didn't tell the truth. Sir, why you lied to committee the last time you were here. Why did you do that?
Mr. Chair, the evidence that I have given this committee has been consistent with the evidence that every other witness has given to this committee. It is straightforward and it is simple. That's
not true. And let me display for you some of the evidence that comes from your own department. First of all, there's the ATIP that was the subject of that November 5th story that was published. And in it, it says, the current CNGNYHOM, that's you, expressed concerns regarding the completion of the kitchen and refurbishment project and indicated the unit was not suitable to be the Consul General's accommodations, and it does not have an ideal floor plan for the Consul General representational activities. That's not what you said when you were here last time. And you were asked pointedly. And, you know, one of the Liberal members helpfully asked, did you at any time talk to anyone regarding a desire for relocation? Mr. Thomas Clark, quote, never. Well, now we know that's not true. We know, in fact, that you did make the comments. And you just didn't know that it was captured in official briefing notes. So you just didn't know that you knew that you made the comments, you just didn't know you got caught. Isn't that right?
Mr. Chair, as every other witness has testified, and as I have testified, this process has been going on for a long time. As I testified to this committee, I did not ask for or request a change of residence. I will restate that now. But this has been a process that has been led by Global Affairs Headquarters Property Division in Ottawa.
Sir, let me tell you, when the head of the organization, and you described the importance of the mission, of which you're the head of, you described how important it is. For you to get things done, I don't imagine you need to directly instruct individual members of your team to do them. You need to identify that there's a problem, and then the team engages to solve it. That's how it works. This isn't some comment made in passing. And again, you talk about the evidence. Well, let's talk about the June 17th email from Emily Nicholson. And Ms. Nicholson says that the head of mission and staff have been instrumental throughout this process, with the head of mission, that's you, providing the green light for the selection of the new residents. Now, we know that once this scandal ended up in front of a parliamentary committee, that damage control was engaged, and Ms. Nicholson swallowed herself whole, saying that you had nothing to do with it. Well, I imagine when when she was trying to save her job, that's exactly what she would say. But there are now multiple data points that didn't come from admissions from you or your staff, but came from accessed information demands and document production orders from this committee that revealed that you were involved, that your champagne tastes weren't being met with the recently modified shared representational space at the mission, nor with the multi-million-dollar condo on Billionaires Row. With my last 30 seconds, sir, we know that you're not going to resign for having bought a $9 million condo on Billionaires Row and having personally initiated that process. Will you resign for lying to a parliamentary committee?
Mr. Chair, what the evidence I have given to this committee consistently is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Too bad the facts don't back that up.
Thank you, gentlemen. We'll go to Mrs. Vignola now, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Clark, for being with us again. I have a few short questions very quickly. When you came before the committee, and I reread the testimony, you said continually that you were not involved in the decision-making process. So my question is as follows. Do you make a distinction between being involved in a decision-making process and expressing an opinion? I like French very well, but just to be more clear, I will speak in my mother tongue.
I don't make the distinction on a operational basis. In other words, the decisions that are made by divisions in Global Affairs Canada, I have nothing to do with when it comes to the property. In terms of comments that are made, casual comments that are made about whether it be the office, whether it be the residence, I don't see a connection between those two. And certainly, they were never, ever intended to try and sway anything. And Madame, I just want to repeat very, very quickly, at no time did I ask that we change residences. And I think that's an important point.
Merci. Thank you. We also learned in recent meetings that you visited the residence on 57th Avenue. Did you make those visits before or after the purchase agreement was signed by Global Affairs?
I made that visit after we had made the offer to buy, and I believe, and I'm sorry I don't have the exact date with me. I know that the official signature to buy the property was made in June. I had one visit to the property after we had made the offer to buy. So between those 2 points is where I first saw the residence.
Merci beaucoup.
Thanks very much. So your visit, even though if you said that residence was not appropriate, the offer had already been signed and the decision made.
The offer had been signed. The offer had been made. That is correct. The signature to finalize the purchase came later.
So when you visited after the offer to buy was signed, if you had said, no, this is not an appropriate place, that wouldn't have changed anything. Is that correct?
That is correct. It wouldn't have changed a thing.
Merci.
Thank you. We also have learned that the average that there was a $1.6 million average for purchases, and that would be for a studio, a bachelor apartment. And obviously, a consul general could live there if there was no family, no children, and so on. But is that something that could have been a possibility, and would that be adequate in the longer term, 60 years from now, for example? Could you see a small apartment being appropriate in the longer term to do business in New York?
No, I don't, and let me explain why. Once again, as I said, we're in a competitive environment here. This residence for the Consul General is a working residence. So it's part of what we do in terms of whether we have dinners, whether we have meetings, seminars, receptions, all sorts of things. And if you take a look at where our competitors are, such as the United Kingdom, who I think spent $26 million American on their residence. I think the Italians spent $35 million on theirs. And I'm talking American dollars, and in American dollars, we spent $6.5 million. So you can see already we are much smaller, much more compact, and maybe more efficient than our competitors are. But a small
Merci, Monsieur Clark. Une dernière question.
Thank you. I have one last question. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just have a little time. So you said that you shared an opinion just with another member of your colleague. So what is how is the space divided between family and official use?
Answer, please.
The family space is very small. The official space is very big. That's as briefly as I can put it.
Oui, merci, Monsieur le.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Mr. Clark, for being with us again today. Mr. Clark, in answer to the repeated question from this committee, you were clear in saying that, or you were asked, in fact, whether you spoke to anybody about the need to relocate. You said, no, never. So you can understand why our committee is a bit troubled, because you seem to have misled us, because there are reports that indicate that you repeatedly expressed misgivings about the former residence, saying it was inadequate, and you shared that opinion with members of your staff and say that that was just impromptu comments. So it turns out that what you said before is not true, even if you made occasional opinions and you didn't mean them to be interpreted as directives. Why did you say to the committee that you didn't talk to anyone about relocating?
Well, Mr. Chair, I did not talk to anybody about relocating. My comments, casual as they may have been, were directed towards what I had to work with at 550 Park in Unit 12E. I noted that there were problems with the furniture, for example, that made it very difficult for people with mobility or accessibility issues to use that furniture. I expressed that the family space was, and this goes a little bit further to explaining what I meant by that, there is in that apartment no designated family space other than the bedrooms. Everything else is representational. I brought this up to say, as we have heard in previous testimony from officials of global affairs, this is not an uncommon comment for incoming heads of mission to say. It is a problem with many official residences.
Je comprends votre point.
I understand your perspective, but when you say,
Une réponse précédente. Je n'ai pas demandé.
you said, I did not ask to have relocation, but you can understand that if you say to staff that the space isn't appropriate, the furniture isn't appropriate, it is inaccessible, and so on, and it isn't good for family space, that could easily be interpreted as a desire to relocate.
Mr. Chair, I want to repeat again that the process for relocating an official residence is not in the hands of the local head of mission nor the staff of the mission in New York. It is entirely in the hands of the property division in Ottawa.
Question de mon collègue, Monsieur Jouari.
Mr. Jouari, my colleague, asked the question as to whether you ever spoke to this of this to anyone. You can understand that we as a committee are feeling that we've been misled.
Mr. Chair, I can assure the member that everything that I have said is, and it is now, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. The decision to buy and sell the residences was taken by Ottawa. I had no role in that. I did not exert any influence, nor did I have the ability to exert any influence.
Dans ce cas-là, Monsieur Clark.
In that case, Mr. Clark, would you say that the new residence that has been purchased meets the criteria that you felt were important?
Global Affairs Canada informs me that the new residence meets all the criteria that they have.
Vous êtes davantage satisfait de la nouvelle.
So are you happier with the new residence than with the former one?
Mr. Chair, you'll understand it's not a question of my happiness. It wasn't a question of my unhappiness or my happiness. I go where I am told to go. Global Affairs has decided that a process took place that they wanted to move the residents. That's where I'm going.
Reste combien de temps?
How much time do I have left? A minute. When we talk about the tools needed by the Consul General, to what extent is this residence a fundamental tool for your work?
That's a good question. I find it very helpful for the type of work that I do. Very often we convene, for example, dinners on particular subjects. We have access to some of the top brains in the United States, and we put them together with Canadians, with Quebecers, with people from other provinces. And it is a way of us finding a way in this very noisy environment in New York to be relevant to the conversation in North America. So it's a very important tool for me.